We're at the respite centre. We were invited where we'd been doing some training early in the day, and the coordinator of the respite centre invited us to join them at lunch in the cafe. And we're sitting in the cafe. The cafe was quite a narrow spot, and I was sitting at the head of the table with my back towards the kitchen, looking out the cafe. My colleague was sitting down on the right-hand side, but I was speaking with Diane, the coordinator, and Peter, he was the volunteer for the bus driver in the respite centre, and they were sitting on my left and right, and just talking general conversation about life. And the question come up was about why I joined the fire service, and it was sort of something I hadn't really reflected on too much, and sort of explained to him that there was a friend of mine in the job, and he suggested I should come along and do it. And initially I thought, no, I wouldn't like to join the fire service because I would hate to get burnt. That would be one of my biggest fears, I would say. I've had minor burns, obviously comes with the territory, but nothing as extreme as this. It's the worst pain that I've ever experienced. Even though we weren't there on duty as such to do firefighting, you still sort of feel that you weren't able to do enough for other people.
It was one of those moments where you just go, this is big. We're really used to doing single casualty kind of events, but to have the information that there were 20 plus people on the ground who potentially needed to be evacuated, we knew it was going to be a big job. There was no airport in Ravenshoe, so we had to go to Atherton Airport. We were met on the ground by one of the doctors there who took us by road to Ravenshoe. That took about 40 minutes. As we approached the scene, it all seemed fairly chaotic. There were a lot of resources there, a couple of helicopters were there, lots of ambulances, and basically lots of injured people everywhere. We were advised that Michael was in an ambulance and asked to have a look at him. Opened the ambulance door and I could see a very stoic looking chap who was in exceptional pain. He was extremely burnt. He had no shirt on. His torso was quite burnt, and Rob and I, the doctor, knew immediately that Michael was one of the more injured casualties who needed to be evacuated straight away.
You know, being a fireman, he sort of thought that, he's usually on the other side of things. He's like us, when these things happen, they turn up to help, but in this particular case, he'd been a victim. The thing that I know from years of flying around with the Royal Flying Doctor Service is that anyone that's burnt, you need to get them to a facility quite quick. If you're airway compromised or when you've been badly burnt, you start to blow up like a balloon, fluid and that. So with immediate effect, we did muck around. We got him in that ambulance and the other patient, and we started to drive back down the hill to the Atherton Airport. We took off, rain, showers. I climbed the aircraft basically straight out, contacted ATC. They give us a priority 1 clearance, track straight to Townsville. And ATC in Townsville were priority 1 medical aircraft, and we had no delays, about a 40-minute flight and straight into Townsville. Yeah.
Our aircraft are fully equipped mobile intensive care units. They come with the equipment to monitor patients who are critically unwell. We have ventilators, defibrillators, pumps on board. We can respond to any emergency, whether it's a multi-casualty emergency or a single car rollover. In this case, there were significant burns. We were able to respond appropriately with all the right equipment. If our aircraft aren't kitted out appropriately, we can't respond.
Having a service that can provide that initial treatment, pain relief, and then transport you as quick as you can. Yeah, godsend really.
Without people donating, we can't do our jobs. It's as simple as that. Without the right equipment, the right training, the right staff, we can't do our jobs. So the people that donate keep us in the air. They keep us flying.
If you're in a position to assist the flying doctors, please do so. Your donations will go towards fitting out a new aircraft. This new aircraft has increased capacity, newer equipment and additional beds. It may not seem much having one extra bed, but the aircraft that I was in on the day of my accident only had 2. One additional bed means one additional life potentially saved, and that means everything.